1. Let's go. June 13th, 2021. This title of our sermon today is Mother of Peace. We'll be examining some of Mother's words from her June 5th and anniversary of the 61st True Day of All True Things program last night. So it should be exciting. And of course, I'm Pastor Frank, pastor of Family Church of San Diego, Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. Let's forget the unification. So last night there was the 59th Day of All True Things and the 67th anniversary of the founding of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. They had a gigantic worldwide event, and they gave awards to many, many people, and so it was pretty exciting. It was a two-way live stream, so they invited me to be part of the live stream. Yes. So the beauty of that is you can't leave. You can't get up to go to the bathroom. You can't drink a glass of water. You just got to stay there and clap and cheer and pay attention to what's going on, which I think is incredibly difficult. I suffered a lot. Nevertheless, I'm still here. Amen. Unfortunately, there's no banner because they just decided to not make one. What do we need a banner for? Also, last week on June 5th, we did this incredible program with True Mother and all the speakers. I thought, of course, we're going to examine Mother's words. And that's what today's sermon is about. You can't hear Mother's words and not respond. It's the same with Jesus and all the prophets. When Isaiah comes to the king and says, you got to stop what you're doing. Yes. You got to stop what you're doing. God sends messengers to us, and if you don't listen to them, then you may come into ruin, and so on and so forth. So we're going to go over Mother's speech. They said that what happened was, they wanted to do this purely, entirely by internet. Remember in 2019, we went to Madison Square Garden or Las Vegas or where else did we go? A Prudential Center, and tens of thousands of people came to those events, but it paled in comparison, they believe, to this event. So here's what happened. Here's a summary, and they think that there were 24,922 people who connected. They can tell how many people turned the screen on. They can tell by the delay. I don't know how they tell, but they know 24,922 screens around the world watch True Mother speak. And in Japan, 9,154. United States, the most, of course, greatest country ever, 8,531. Now, for example, in San Diego, we had 12 people watching. So anything, and also they went around. Chicago had 40, 50 people watching just on one screen. So they think from all these screens that they had between 30 and 40,000 people around the world watching, which is to what we've done in the past, that's quite remarkable. And also because it's sustainable, right? That's a new word, sustainable. Sustainable because, we have production costs, but to rent Prudential Center and the thousands of buses and food and all those things is just ridiculously expensive. I shouldn't say, anyway, it was just very, very expensive, but this is inexpensive compared to that. So that means it's sustainable and they can do it on a regular basis. And of all the things I liked, of course, we hear True Mother, but also they did the blessing testimonies and Reverend Thomas. I thought those guys really hit it out of the park myself. I thought that was, and what they're going to do is they're going to parcel it out. After 30 days, they're going to parcel it out so we can use those testimonies for witnessing or visiting other churches and things like that. So it's going to be exciting. So yes, we did. They suggested everybody have a watch party. So yes, we watched and partied down Sunday with several ministers and guests with the Pollo Loco dinner. Partied all night. We had a great time. And some of our guests here, Uncle Bob Millar, Dave Timmer. We had 4 ministers come. Reverend Mahadas, sorry you can't see him very well. The Reverend Mahadas and Mrs. Mahadas came. And here's Andy with his guest, Reverend Tim, what's his name? Tim Rubber. Anyhow, so sorry, Tim, Reverend Tim.
Timar.
It was something like Rojadas, something like that. Anyway, I really suffered a lot last night. And so now I'm relaxing a little bit.
I came from work and walked to his I opened the garage door and he's like, what happened? He was exhausted like a big lump.
However, I was I was utterly faithful to the event. Utterly faithful to the event.
Well, God will bless you.
Okay, here's Mother's message from June 5th, and it was the same sermon she gave last night. It was the same talk. So let's read some of these things. June 5th. And I'm gonna clarify them for an American audience, because this is a worldwide audience, but we're Americans. So I thought, well, just help make it a little as clear as possible. Number one. Also, this will include some of the words Mother gave to the leaders when she left Las Vegas, and I thought that really helped clarify things. So let's go. So here it is. Mother's message. Beloved ladies and gentlemen, leaders from every sector of society joining from around the world. And there were tens of thousands of people watching. Today you stand at a turning point where your resolve is needed for the sake of the world's citizens. Our resolve. Because it's always human freedom that decides whether there's the fall of man or the faith that allows human beings to be saved by God. Right? God can't just pull you out, unfortunately. Because of the fall of man, divine principle teaches that if you make conditions to unite with Satan, adultery or whatever in the world you do, then Satan's going to get you. You're claimed by Satan. If you're in the middle ground, you don't commit anything for God or for Satan, then nobody can claim you. But if you do some activity, something, watching the program all night, witnessing, caring, tithing, all those conditions are conditions where God can claim you and say, Satan, no, this is my son. This is my daughter. This is my family. So all the time we live, we want to make conditions where God can claim you and not Satan. So that's what this resolve means, right? The first human ancestors left their creator God and by their free will obeyed and united 100% with the word of Satan, right? So that's bad. And thus began the history of war and conflict that continues to this day. Today, so we say there's two types of human nature. There's really three types, but two types are dominant. The first type is, we say, Cain nature. From Adam and Eve committing this sin, uniting with Satan, their first child was a child united with Satan. That's Cain. And what did he do? He killed his brother. So all the time, you guys are probably very nice. You rarely think of killing other people, right? So you might think that everybody's like you. No, it's not true. There are Cain-like people in the world who wish to kill you, kill your children, kill everybody you know, and take all your things. It's called Cain-like thought, right? Whether it's Nazism or communism or criminals or gangs or drug cartels, they all have that same Cain-like spirit. So we don't, right? So today, history, war, and conflict, and continues to this day. Today, moreover, humanity is waging war against an unexpected virus. So Mother says, for thousands of years, humankind has yearned for freedom and peace. Yet, this dream has not been realized even for a single day, which we all realize, right? In America, we say, what do we say? Every day is a what race? Rat race, right? That was what Americans said without any benefit of religion or True Mother saying it. They said our workaday world is like a rat race, always racing against rats. So the Creator had no choice but to act according to his principles of creation. God could not abandon mankind and therefore initiated the history of the providence of salvation. However, it took 6,000 long providential years until a victorious individual, absolutely united with the Creator, could emerge in the midst of fallen humanity, and that time is now, right? So 2,000 years ago, heaven chose a victorious Son who could fulfill the ideal of creation. Jesus Christ, of course. God's only, or we say first begotten Son, because of Jesus' faith, and there's many, we're also adopted children of God. Yet Jesus Christ, who was not recognized. The foundation laid for Jesus Christ to fulfill his responsibility was taken from him, right? And I thought for all the Christians who might wonder about that, John 1:11, he came unto his own, and his own received him not. That's Old English, but now it's he came unto his own, and his own did not receive him. We know that's true. That's right. Jesus wasn't accepted. He came unto his own and wasn't accepted. Matthew 22, the parable of the wedding feast. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son and sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. Again, he sent out other servants, saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and fatted calves. So twice they're invited. My fatted cattle are killed and all things are ready. Come to the wedding. But they made light of it and went on their ways, one to his own farm, another to his business, and the rest seized his servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. Jesus is talking about the nation of Israel, who when Jesus came and talked to the scribes, Pharisees, people of the temple, his own family, etc., the only people who followed him were fishermen, tax collectors, zealots, a few others, and they were killed, right? The Jewish people killed his apostles and him. So that's, when Mother says that, that's what she means when she says that. Ultimately, Christ walked the path of the cross, prophesying that I will come again. Christianity began eagerly awaiting for Christ to come again. For a long time, Christians have been waiting for Christ's return. However, the essence of Jesus and the identity of God the Creator remains elusive. Over time, human-centered thought led to the creation of countless denominations. With so many different denominations, where would the Christ come again? Okay, where would the Christ come again? That's the question. The Puritan fathers built America as a democratic nation. They prioritized building a place of worship and built schools to educate future leaders. Constructing their homes was not their first priority. How about us? Was building our homes our first priority? No, we all were missionaries. We all went everywhere. We all built our Unification Church long before we built our own houses. Constructing their homes was not their priority. However, given the environment, realizing the journey was not easy, and America now has 400 years of history. Throughout those 400 years, many unexpected events happened. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, by the way, just for time. So this is a really important part. During World War II, America played a central role in the victory of the Allied forces. However, the role of Korea in God's providence and plan remained a mystery to the Americans. Right? We think, what nation would Christ return to remains a mystery to Americans. Had God's unfolding plan been known and had heaven's voice been heard, today's Korean peninsula would not be divided into north and south. Correct? Correct. Absolutely correct. So, Mother says, please understand that the desire of God the Creator was to dwell as our heavenly parent with the first ancestors who were to have reached spiritual maturity on earth. In other words, God's wish was to build the kingdom of heaven on earth together with human beings. However, our first ancestors tasked with becoming victorious in cooperation with God could not fulfill God's will. During the 2,000-year history of Christianity, heaven has worked to establish without fail the foundation for the realization of God's principle of creation. Principle of creation was Adam and Eve should become what? The image of God on earth. The two should be united, become one flesh, and all God's children should come from that relationship. Does that make sense? Hence, since Jesus, the second or last or ultimate Adam, prophesied that he would come again to host the marriage supper of the Lamb, the Christian cultural realm must find the only begotten daughter of God who will stand as the bride of the returning Christ. Does that make sense? That's Mother's declaration. Knowing that the providence could no longer wait, and in order to lay the foundation for the returning Messiah, heaven granted the founding of a new nation that could unite other divided nations. Do you know the name of that nation? I'll show it to you. It's a rhetorical question. Mother answers a question. That nation is today's United States of America. Just so you won't make a mistake. United States of America is the most powerful country in the world, most technology in the world, greatest food production in the world, greatest everything production still in the world, even though our leaders have tried to destroy that for the last 20 or 30 years. I'll show you what that means in a second. So, Mother believes that this nation, United States of America, was very important to Korea, which is a heavenly nation, the most Christian nation on earth other than the US of A, and America had a leading role in Korea's fate. So, this is this is a map of Asia in World War II, right? The red part, here I'll show it to you. See this red part down here? Hold on just 1 second. Let's just go there. See, this red part is Japan. Okay, let's go back here without messing everything up. So all this was considered Japan. Of course, but Japan had incorporated and annexed all this land. What's in the middle of Japan? Korea became what? Japanese. It was Japan, right? It was Japan.
Wow.
And what's this country? Union of Soviet Socialist Republics comes to where? See this border with Korea? Here's a little tiny bit of China, and then here's Russia. So Soviet Union was borders with Korea during World War II. That's sort of important for you to understand what actually took place. So let's keep going. Okay. This is from Wikipedia on the division of Korea. What caused the division of Korea? Okay. At the Yalta Conference, Korea, formerly under Japanese rule and which had been partially occupied by the Red Army following the Soviet Union's entry into the war against Japan, was divided at the 38th parallel on whose orders? On the orders of the U.S. War Department. This isn't church leaders saying this, or it isn't. This is Wikipedia saying this. What were the Russians were there because they were borders with Japan. Germany surrenders in the middle of the summer. Japan didn't surrender till August 15th, 1945. So when the Germans surrendered, Russians immediately moved their soldiers and divisions to attack Japan and brought their soldiers down into what they considered Japan, which was Korea. That's where the Soviet Union was. Okay, so a U.S. military government in southern Korea was established in the capital city of Seoul. The American military commander, Lieutenant John R. Hodge, enlisted many former Japanese administrative officials to serve in his government. Sorry, that's what he did. North of the military line, the Soviets, that's how the Soviets got into North Korea, because they were borders with Japan during World War II. So they weren't attacking Korea, they thought they were attacking Japan, and they deserved to attack Japan. Okay? The Soviets administered disarming and demobilization, repatriated Korean nationalist guerrillas. Who is who? Kim Il-sung, who had fought on the side of the Chinese nationalists against the Japanese Manchuria during World War II. Simultaneously, the Soviets enabled a buildup of heavy armaments to pro-communist forces in the north. The military line became a political line in 1948 when separate republics emerged on both sides of the 38th parallel, each republic claiming to be the legitimate government of Korea. It culminated in the North invading the South, started the Korean War 2 years later. So this history we know, but Mother always says America was responsible. I wanted you to understand, yeah, America was responsible. We were the leading power in the world, just conquered Japan. We had inherited the territory of Korea, but Truman didn't fight for North Korea. Could have, but didn't. Right? Also, this is very important to me spiritually, and I think, this is what I believe happened. Pyongyang is the capital of North Korea, was called what? The Jerusalem of the East. That's where father was born in North Korea, and mother was born in North Korea. But what happened to the Christians, right? Sometimes I read to you from the history books of Korea that the Korean Pentecost lasted from 1907 till what year? 1940. And why 1940 did it end? After mother and father were born, was because the Japanese made war upon the Korean Christians in Pyongyang. The Japanese, remember, the Japanese persecuted the Christians. Remember, father writes in his autobiography, he saw his uncles and mother's family, mother's minister, Hyo-ho-bin, was killed by the communists. All that was happening this time. She was supposed to receive the Messiah. And other ministers in Pyongyang were supposed to receive the Messiah, but the Japanese had been killing the Christians and ended the Korean Christian Pentecost by the time of World War II. So Pyongyang was the Jerusalem of the East, not Seoul. Neither Seoul nor Busan was ever the Jerusalem of the East, right? So we say Satan invaded and destroyed Pyongyang and the Christian foundation before they could meet the Messiah. That's a gigantic problem for true parents, for God's will, and for us. Now we're the people of the highways and byways, the lame, the etc. So we say there are many failures that cause the rejection of Jesus. We just said, what happened to Jesus? Why did his own people not accept him? So we say these reasons. Number one, Elizabeth and Zechariah failed to protect Mary and the baby Jesus, right? The Holy Spirit tells Mary of the Annunciation. She immediately goes to Elizabeth's house where she becomes pregnant by the Holy Spirit, an immaculate conception. But then what happens? 3 months later, they kicked her out after only 3 months. They were never supposed to do that. If Jesus had been born with Mary under the protection of Zechariah and Elizabeth, she would have been, another miracle happened. A miracle happened with John the Baptist, and now another miracle happened. Yahshua ben Dav is born in Zechariah's house with John the Baptist. Wouldn't that be amazing? Who would attack Mary then? But it didn't work. Mary's family obviously failed to believe and protect her. Joseph, fortunately, saved Mary and saved Jesus. However, the three kings failed. God sends the three kings after Jesus' birth to bring Jesus into their protection in the east, far away from Herod, into their kingdoms, right? But they just left gold, frankincense, and myrrh, burial ointment to Mary. See ya, good luck. We're on our way back to Babylon or wherever we're from. So, Mary and the priests failed when Jesus taught at the temple. Remember the Passover? Jesus is 12 years old. He goes to the temple, and now he's preaching, and all the priests are amazed. How is this kid knowing all this knowledge? What an incredible kid. Who are you? And then Mary comes after 3 days. They figure he's gone. They come, and then they don't. Mary does not proclaim Jesus' messiahship. Yeah. What does she do? She says, oh, this is Joseph's son. Of all people on earth to know Jesus is not Joseph's son, shouldn't Mary know? And then Jesus himself says no. He doesn't say Joseph's not my father. He said, God is my father, and this is my home. This is my house. But Mary and Joseph take him away, and then Mary's remarks, she doesn't understand. So Jesus was not protected. His family failed to believe in him. John 4. His brothers tell him to go to Jerusalem because they didn't believe he was Messiah, right? The townsfolk of Nazareth, where Jesus grew up, failed to believe in him when he reads the scroll, and instead of remembering what a good boy he's been all his life, they try to kill him. And then finally, John the Baptist failed to believe in him. We know before he's beheaded, he goes, are you the Messiah, or shall we wait for another? And then he's killed. So it didn't work. How about true parents? The failures that led to rejection of true father. What are they? Number one, annexation of Korea by Japan. Japanese Shintoists took over Korea and crushed the Christian Pentecost that was supposed to receive true father and true mother. Right? Japanese persecution of Pyongyang Christians, that was a foundation. That was a landing point. But they were destroyed, killed, persecuted, jailed, tortured, imprisoned by Japanese Shintoists. Right? That's how Satan works. Reverend Kim, father went after Japan. He went to Reverend Kim's church, worked hard, showed himself, but for whatever reason, it's in father's biography, Reverend Kim rejects him. And so father goes north. The Christians in North Korea don't accept true father. Reverend Hyo-ho Bin's rejection. Remember, they're in prison together. Father says, Hyo-ho Bin, go back to church, deny whatever things, go back to church, and then I'll meet you there, and together we're going to save Korea. But Hyo-ho Bin refuses to follow father. She's killed by the communists, and then father ends up where? In Hungnam prison. So you can see block after block, obstacle after obstacle in father's life made it very difficult for people to accept him. Also, Reverend Moon's first wife's family was strongly communicating with Syngman Rhee at the time, the president of Korea. What I've always believed was if her family had believed in father and gone to Syngman Rhee and said, this Reverend Moon understands communism like nobody else, understands Christianity like nobody else, Syngman Rhee supports true father. Syngman Rhee's the president of what country?
South Korea.
South Korea. Who's the general in charge of South Korea? General Douglas MacArthur. What was happening in the 50s after he defeated the North Koreans and communists? The Republicans in America begged him, come back to the United States, we'll make you president of the United States, right? They begged him to do that. They ended up with Eisenhower instead, but they wanted MacArthur. So what would have happened? Father's wife's family introduced Syngman Rhee to MacArthur. Father urges General MacArthur, you go to America, become president. I'll be your inspiration and your spiritual guide. We'll defeat communism together. Remember, MacArthur said we should have bombed Peking.
Yeah.
So, but nothing happened. Sorry, all the blocks failed to take place. Even though God makes many opportunities, it all unfortunately fails. Then lies about fathers, some sexual misconduct, which are all lies. There are no 6 Marys. Father is not the father of what's his name, Sammy Pak. There were no Pikarum. None of those things happened. It was all lies, and Father's been exonerated at least half a dozen times from those lies. So we should understand and believe that. So here's Mother, right? Here's Mother talking to our brothers and sisters after the event. She talks to them. She says this: there are so many things to do, but people who call themselves America's politicians, America's scientists, America's intellects, what on earth are they thinking about? She didn't say idiots, morons, but she said, what on earth are they thinking about? Our Creator, Heavenly Parent, wanted to build heaven on earth together with human beings, centering on this planet. Countries around the world are increasingly focused on just their own nations and their own prosperity. However, shouldn't we be creating an environment in which we can all live in mutual prosperity? Leaders of the UPF USA, please strongly advise what I am saying when you meet with the leaders of American politicians. For America to survive, America must live for the sake of the world. The current state of affairs in the United States, especially from a political view, is not what our Creator, Heavenly Parent, desires. Right? Okay, here's what the world looks like now. Here's Russia. Russia's right here. Here's North Korea. Here's China. And here's South Korea. So one of the things Mother's talking about is this division between North and South Korea, and the division between Japan, the United States, Taiwan, and the communist nations. I missed one. I missed one slide. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Then we'll go back. Okay, here it is. This slide's in the wrong order. Okay, so right after she says that American politicians, then she says this, right? Sorry, I got the slide in the wrong order. I have been saying this for a long time now, but China has been considering world domination centered on a communist system. So I told them that they cannot contribute to the world with communism, that they should forget such ideas. I have done several world tours and feel that China is attempting to expand their territory and influence different areas in order to dominate the world. So number one, Mother remains strongly anti-communist. So some of our brothers and sisters are hearing Mother talk about the environment or this and that and think, well, maybe she's gone left on us. No! Here in uncertain terms, Mother is still 100% against communism. The reason heaven blessed America according to his providence is because he can save the world through America, not China, not communism, not socialism. China is advancing toward a communist world centering on itself. But America has always been one step too late, knuckleheads. America was to become a nation that, attending our Creator, Heavenly Parent, at the center of a democratic world. However, no one has come to their senses. We are supposed to remain a democratic world, not a socialist world. Right? No one in here, this is Mother's directly to our church leaders. This is Reverend Jenkins and Tengan and all our world leaders in America, who's Thomas Ward, the Tom McDivitt, the leader of the Washington Times. Mother's saying this directly to them. Yes. Don't fall into the trap. Don't think socialism's okay. Don't think this is the way to go. Okay? So let me go back here to what Mother says. Climate change. Okay, so this is where many of our church brothers and sisters are confused about what Mother is saying. Climate change is having an enormous impact on the entire planet. I can see that even here in Las Vegas, the rising and falling between temperatures of 40 to 50 degrees or Fahrenheit accelerates desertification. In that regard, America must wake up. In order to solve this problem, we need good ideas. She's not saying leftist ideas. We need good ideas, and I'm going to show you some of those good ideas. For example, what if we were to create a pipeline to carry water from the ocean to the deserts to create a green zone like the Amazon rainforest? It is not impossible. Solving the Earth's problems should come before going to the moon or Mars. We must solve our problems one by one this way, which I really, really 100% agree with True Mother, right? The Central Valley in California can feed almost the entire world all by itself if enough fresh water were given to them, right? If enough fresh water were given, just the Central Valley in California could feed everybody. You know why? Because they have 4 growing seasons. It's all sun all the time. Anyhow, let's keep going. So, on the other hand, then some members thought, I talked to Kevin Thompson, he says, everybody thinks, well, what are we doing now? Are we going to join the left? No, headwing environmentalism. We believe in headwing environment. What does that look like? I'm going to show you. Whatever it is. So here's Patrick Moore, co-founder of the environmental organization Greenpeace. Y'all heard Greenpeace, right? Yeah. He's the founder of Greenpeace. Yes. What does he say about leftist environmentalism? Here, listen. Moore is the author of the book Confessions of a Greenpeace Dropout, the making of a sensible environmentalist, that's who we are, in which he exposes the green movement and explains why he left the organization. While talking with Stuart Varney, he explained that departure was in part due to the group's extremist positions and it being hijacked by political and socialist causes on the left. Understand? Yeah. Even the founder of Greenpeace, who's a big environmentalist, thinks that the environmentalist movement has been hijacked by the left. So, if Mother wants you to be environmentalist, you have to be a head-wing environmentalist. Don't become a Marxist-Leninist, Green Revolution environmentalist. So, here's just a small picture of leftist environmentalism. How about the Earth Liberation Front? It has liberation in it. It's a Marxist movement. Anyhow, the LF gained national attention for a series of actions which earned them the label eco-terrorists, including, this is Kane-type thought. It's Kainism, including the burning of a ski resort in Vail, Colorado in 1998 and burning of an SUV dealership in Oregon in 1999. In the same year, the ELA had made headlines by setting fire to the Vail resorts in Washington, D.C. The defendants in the case were later charged in the FBI's Operation Backfire, along with other arson and cases, which were later named by environmentalists as the Green Scare, alluding to the Red Scare, Red Square, green, periods of fear over communist infiltration of the U.S. following the September 11, 2001 attacks. Several laws were passed increasing the penalty for eco-terrorism, and hearings were held in Congress discussing the activity of groups such as the ELF. It was then announced in 2003 that eco-terrorist attacks known as ecotage had increased from the ELF, ELA, and the Environmental Rangers, another name used by activists when engaging in similar actions. So all these eco-terrorists, leftist Marxist terrorists, are out burning and bombing and blowing things up. In 2005, the FBI announced that the ELF was America's greatest domestic terrorist threat, responsible for at least 1,200 criminal incidents, amounting to tens of millions of dollars in damage. So 2005 is how long after 9/11?
4 years.
4 years. So who's the worst terrorists in the United States? The doggone eco-terrorists. That's by the FBI. That's their job to know who's the worst criminals, right?
Right.
So don't be fooled. We have, as Christians, we have to be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. So here's some harmless things we can do to save the world that are on the left. So Kane-type hateful environmentalism. The left desired the destruction of Western civilization, industry, and manufacturing. But somehow, why do they like Chinese communist pollution? Right? Al Gore, outright, the head of the United States, he never says anything about Chinese pollution. They have 10 times the pollution as the United States, but he never says anything about them. Go ahead, and they're now shipping more industry, more manufacturing to China under Biden's new government. It's crazy, right? You'd have to say it's a self-destruction of this Cain killing Abel and then being kicked out even further out of the Garden of Eden. He's already out, now he's kicked out further. Okay, this is what Mother's saying. Look, you have to understand communism is evil, whether it's eco-terrorism or whatever manifestation of communism it is, it's wrong, right? So don't fall for it. Okay, here's some heavenly ideas about ecology. Okay, so this is earthday.org. It's called the Canopy Project. So you can join this and not burn anything down. The Canopy Project improves our shared environment by planting trees across the globe. Since 2010, earthday.org has planted tens of millions of trees with the Canopy Project working worldwide to strengthen communities. Good or bad? Good. This is able type. We say this is able type ecological. Join these guys. Give money to them. Don't fall for the communist Marxist green revolution, right? Earthday.org works with global partners to reforest areas in dire need of rehabilitation. Would Mother like this group? Yeah. Yes. If Mother said we infiltrated that group and took over them, would Mother be? She'd say, "Wow, good idea." Including areas with some of the world's communities most at risk climate change and environmental degradation. We have also conducted broad tree planting in the wake of environmental disasters. Yes. Good. So this is what we're supposed to do. When Mother says you should become good environmentalists, this is what she means. Not joining ELF. Don't join ELF. Don't burn anything down. Okay, next. This is from Scientific American, a trustworthy source of information. Okay, Mother would like to see the de-desertification, take a long time to learn to say that, by the way, of the world, right? How are we going to do it? Okay, let's look. Israel proves that desalination era is here. Listen to this. One of the driest countries on earth now makes more fresh water than it needs. Wow. Israel, right? Using Jewish technology. Didn't I show you 100 times that 22% of all Nobel Prizes in physics, technology go to Jewish people? Because that's a blessing to Abraham, that you will be blessed by your lineage. That's what's going on here. So listen to this. Driven by necessity, Israel is learning to squeeze more out of every drop of water than any country on earth. Researchers have pioneered new techniques in drip irrigation, water treatment, and desalination. They have developed resilient well systems for African villages and biological digesters that can have the water used of most homes. So who's saving African nations? Who's the able-like country saving the African nations? It's Israel. Who does the left hate second after they hate the United States? Israel, right? If that doesn't tell you who's on Satan's side, then you won't ever be able to understand it. Desalination used to be an expensive energy hog, but the kind of advanced technology being employed at Sorek in Israel have been a game changer. Sorek can produce 1,000 liters of drinking water for 58 cents. Oh, really? Isn't that incredible? And so they're watering the desert, they're giving water to Jordan and all kinds of other countries. And by the way, they recently finished the Carlsbad desalination plant in Southern California. There's one just in Carlsbad. Does that make sense? It's incredible. Who's doing it? Able-like Jewish technology. And there's one in Jordan. They're watering Jordan, a desert, right? And there's 15 in India. And they're building new ones in China. Isn't that incredible? So all over the world, Jewish technology is going to save people from desertification. So Mother, somebody should send this lecture to Mother so she can understand, yeah, love the Jews, God bless them. By the way, this is the one in Carlsbad, right? Desalinated water costs half a penny per gallon from Carlsbad, California. Amen. Right? See, this is take a pop-up tour of the Carlsbad desalination plant. Anyhow, so Mother's saying these things. We should be wise enough to listen to Mother. You can't deny Mother, but you have to find a way to do it within the scope of God's will. Able-type constructive environmentalism lifts Western civilization, industry, invention, and the three blessings. Okay? So don't get confused. I'm going to send this to who's that guy up there? Who's that guy up there in the north? Kevin Thompson. That's right. I'll send it to him. Again, Mother says, why? Because we have to overcome communism, but you can't overcome communism by being confused about whose side you're on and what's the right thing to do. So here's Mother. So Mother says, from now on, in response to all these activities centering on Family Federation leaders, CARP and YSP should take action and educate the world. This is no longer a theory. You must show me your substantial efforts. After I return to Korea today, I want to hear reports on how well you're carrying out your activities in America. So I would suggest all of us give $10 to the canopyearth.org, and we send a letter to Mother. Mother, we heard you. we're setting this so Canopy can grow 10,000 trees around the world. And the mother will say, yeah, you guys are obeying me. Amen. Finally, somebody. Right? Amen. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah.